other night I was listening to my daughter express how she feels such worry and anxiety. Now, normally teenagers would feel anxiety about maybe more social, how they're going to do in their career, so many other things. But what she expressed as her greatest anxiety is around housing, around whether she'll be in a decent place to live after she leaves home, whether she's going to be able to afford rent. Well, whether she'll be evicted just at the whim or have her tenancy end at the whim of the landlord, whether she's going to be able to get her needs met if there are problems in the house, whether the landlord is going to be responsive to her. She's got so many worries about being house poor and about being feeling powerless in the situation of tenancy. And it's not for no reason that she feels that. There was a time when we did struggle to find decent housing. We had just sold our house, and it took us over 6 weeks of looking to be able to find anything. And even then it took us having an article written about us in the newspaper in order to attract the attention of someone who offered up their place for us to live. There's just not enough housing, and the state of our housing stock is really poor as well. So she knows firsthand what it feels like to have that housing stress. And even now, rent is quite high compared to our income. And so it is still a bit of a stress even today, even though we do have a place to live. And so I just wanted to focus on housing as a means for building community wealth and intergenerational wealth rather than private wealth and intergenerational worry. So we can do it one way or we can do it the other, but we've got to make our policies, I think, move towards the means of community wealth and not intergenerational worry. So how do we do that? Well, there's 5 capitals of wealth building that we can look at when we are doing our housing development or designing our housing. So with the 5 capitals, we have the human and the social, the financial, the ecological, and the built, or the manufactured. And so each one of those, if we focus on equally each of those, rather than just the financial, we can actually build intergenerational and community wealth through housing. So we can look at the humans. That could include the residents who would be living there, but it also would be the builders and the other people who are in the community that could benefit from learning skills and being brought down as volunteers, so that it's a community building process and humans are developed in that process, as well as being helped once they're in their house so that their social system's set up to support new homeowners. Then we have the social and the cultural capitals. So building houses in neighborhoods that are more connected brings in more social resilience. So it's around the design of the houses that helps us to create stronger social and cultural resilience. We have the ecological, and as I've mentioned in other shows where we've talked about the ecological ways that we can mitigate climate and become ecologically resilient through the ways that we design our housing on the land with green common spaces, using more ecological materials in our building, thinking about how the community feeds into the larger ecosystem. We can also then build on our financial capital, whereby we can have other ways that people can have home ownership. There's cooperative housing, there's co-housing, there's also shared equity options, rent to buy. There's so many different ways that people can get their foot in the home ownership door than just what is currently offered as the 20% down and needing to borrow the whole thing from a bank and be individually indebted. So that would be financial wealth, which we can also look at like the community land trust model and inclusionary zoning, where land is taken off the market and the ownership is only of the structure itself rather than of the structure and the land. And then there's the cap on resale, which allows for a perpetual affordability, retained affordability. And then we have the built environment, which is the housing itself, which we really want to have great quality homes. We don't want to have quickly built houses that don't meet the minimum criteria, and we want really more than minimum. We want great houses that provide for great quality of life. So what is going to be our built environment, and how does that look? How do we structure how our neighborhoods are built to provide for a fantastic built environment that is going to be climate resilient, socially resilient, and economically affordable into generations? So I just like to put that to us to think about. We need to think about community wealth, intergenerational wealth, rather than private ownership only, and intergenerational worry for our future generations. Kia ora.